Da 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 da! Back at it with Stream Catchers. Jack, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am feeling good, feeling great, and very excited because this is episode 1 of Loki. Our review of that. Lots to talk about. What did you? Do you have any
Yeah,
initial thoughts on how you liked the episode so far?
it was good. I got a lot of 60s vibes from a lot of the setting, kind of the scenery, the settings, the cartoon.
Yep.
I kind of got to see that in the trailer a little bit, but I wasn't expecting to really live in that, TVA universe this whole opening episode. I thought it was great. I thought I am surprised that some of my notes sound a little negative.
Hmm.
I have some gripes with the episode. I'm excited to talk to you specifically about them because maybe you can you know put a different perspective on it, I guess.
Okay. All
But
right.
what were your initial thoughts? What do you think of the episode?
I really, really enjoyed it. I really did. Whenever I feel like when we talk about these shows so far that we've done, we kind of
Hmm.
compare them to the older ones. And obviously, it's only the first episode, so I don't want to do that too much. But I felt better coming out of this episode than I did episode 1 of WandaVision for sure, and even a little bit of Falcon Winter Soldier. I think.
Okay.
I feel like we have a very clear path to what's to come. I'm sure there are still questions and things that we'll have unraveled as we go, but it feels
Hmm.
like there's a clear direction. Um, I liked the chemistry between Loki and Mobius. We'll get to that a little bit later.
Same.
It feels like there was a lot of heart, funny moments. I agree with the 60s vibe. I wrote down in my notes about the cartoon. We'll talk about that. And just kind of everything overall. I really did enjoy it and the nostalgia it brought. Um, I do have some gripes as well. I have two things.
Okay.
We'll talk
Interesting.
about,
Interesting.
I have two
I,
things
I'm
to talk
wondering
about
now if
after.
they're the same.
They might be. They might be. We'll do our whole thing, and then we'll get to that
Okay.
later on after we've sort of talked about the show. But not perfect, but I am excited, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. From watching the trailers, I really didn't know what to expect plot wise. They kind of just threw a bunch of random spectacular stuff at us, and it looked cool. I mean, it was the visually impressive and everything. And now after this first episode, I kind of see what they're wanting to do,
Mhm.
and I'm excited to see how they're going to get there.
I am too. I am too. Well, let's just get right into it. I think we start off and we pick up right at the spot in Endgame where he winds up with the Tesseract and vanishes.
Hmm.
Watch Endgame, it's like, what the heck happened? Where's he at? Well, we
Yeah,
up and he's in the Gobi Desert.
it was probably a good idea for them to do it that way because I had just watched Endgame myself, but if I hadn't, it's a nice little refresher before the episode really gets going.
Absolutely. I One thing that I thought was really funny too is I mean, if you're putting yourself in Loki's shoes and you just happen to find this item that's going to transport you wherever you want to go, you kind of
Hmm.
just, the first thing that comes to mind. But it's just funny that he thought of the Gobi Desert of all places. And not just that, but like he was 100 feet in the sky,
Yeah,
and shot him down. I just like I don't know why that was the case, but it was kind of funny.
and we find out pretty quickly that it didn't really matter where he thought of. The TVA was going to catch up to wherever he spat out of that wormhole.
Yeah, we see what they're all about right off the bat. I mean,
Hmm.
was her name? B-15, I think, is the
Is
first.
that her name? I was going to look it up. I forgot to.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Okay.
Interacts with him right away. He's looking at her like, who the heck is this? She has this device that has different settings on it, and this one, when she hits him with it, it freezes him in time. And
Yeah. So what did she say? 1/16th speed, and he's just feeling all the pain in real time.
made for a nice, funny little bit.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how they get away with him. They grab him there and they take him to the TVA. So
Yeah, so they use this little I just wrote a little canister that he puts on the or she puts on the ground, filled with yellow liquid. They say that they're going to reset the timeline. The liquid turns purple, and then they leave. We don't get to see what actually happens.
right. And what do you think about that? Because time is a weird thing when movies and shows explore it. Do you think there's a
Well,
significance to the purple? Because I have a theory.
I hadn't thought of. I mean, I wrote down the color, but I hadn't thought of what purple would have to do with anything. Why? What's your theory?
Well, because I don't know if this is different from magic, but obviously there's different forms of magic in the MCU. There's
Hmm.
chaos magic, dark magic. I think the dark magic is purple, if I'm not mistaken. Isn't that what Agatha used in WandaVision? And we've seen
That is her
purple.
color. Yeah, that is her color. I mean, the only other, purple magic that I can think of is like the Power Stone. Anything that the Power Stone affects is purple.
Mm-hmm.
But
Because
I don't know
Strange's
why
is
that would have anything to do with.
orange and Wanda's is red. She has what is it? Chaos, I think, is what it's called.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
So
then time is typically green because of the green time stone. So I don't know.
I don't know. It was just one thing that I thought, but um, yeah. He gives the TVA. What did you think of the TVA?
The TVA is great. All the little trials he has to go through where he of course I'm skipping the part where he finds out about his time loop collar, where if he tries to run off he gets immediately placed back in time, or where he was in time. But yeah,
Yeah,
he has to go through all those little we're this is Asgardian leather. They strips him down, puts him in a jumpsuit. He has to sign off on everything he said. It seems ridiculous to us, and it seems ridiculous to him, which is nice because we're kind of experiencing this new world through his eyes. And yeah, I love these little trials. It was nice to see him kind of get mad, to get angry at all these ridiculous things, all these ridiculous hoops he had to jump through.
he's bothered by it, right? And I agree. I think this was some of the funniest stuff in the entire episode. There's the whole part
Hmm.
where are you or do you, to your knowledge, do you know if you're a robot? Who doesn't know if they're a robot? And he's like, well, wait, what if I am a robot? And then goes
just
through and
just step through.
sign off on everything you've ever said. What? And then it prints off another thing. And he's like,
Uh-huh.
sign that. This is absurd. And sign this. He's just like, oh my god. So
Yeah.
I thought this was some of the best part of the episode. Did you notice? I think it's right when he gets in there at the front desk. There's a scroll checking in.
Yes. Yes, I did notice that.
That was a fun little just thing. I don't think that we're going to get anything else with it, but I think that we might start seeing them sprinkled here and there, just as a bit of a reminder. Hey,
Yeah, so as far as I could tell, there were two other variants featured in the episode. There was that scroll, which I don't think he had any lines, and if they did, they were kind of in the background. You couldn't really hear him. And the guy from Goldman Sachs that got vaporized because he didn't take his ticket.
which was fantastic because yeah, they take your ticket. I don't need to take a ticket, and then he goes through and
Yeah.
there's
So
another variant. There was another variant actually.
okay, what
I
do you
can't
got? I
remember
missed it.
exactly where she was. It was pretty close to the beginning of it, but Loki's going through I think a door, and then there's another door a little bit farther down, and she's coming out, and it's a
Oh, that's right.
real quick shot, but she looks a whole heck of a lot like Peggy Carter.
Ooh, interesting.
And so I've seen a few theories online, and the whole thing is, since we're on the topic of messing up the flow of time and what was supposed to happen,
Hmm.
is she a variant because of Steve going back and staying in the 40s, or would that make him a variant?
I don't know. See, that's that. This kind of opens up the can of worms that I feel like is going to be the bulk of our episode, right? What is and isn't a variant? Because we've time traveled. The Avengers have been all through time now. So I don't know. I don't know. But that I would like to see. I'd like to see that if it is Peggy Carter. I'll have to give that another watch because that
Yeah,
would be really interesting.
poke back through it, or even just give it a Google. Give it a Google.
Yeah.
Peggy Carter, Loki. It's not like it's so far. It's far enough away that it's not clear. It could just be someone that looks like her, but
Uh-huh.
it's also like very, very close. So I don't know. It could have just been a coincidence. It could have just been but maybe it was a thing to get people talking. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, and I also think that while we're on the subject of the other variants that we've seen, that the scrolls would probably be variants more commonly than in any other race because they can shapeshift, right? I mean, how easy would it be to topple a timeline that isn't supposed to happen if you could shapeshift into anybody you wanted and take on the role of whoever you wanted, right? I
Right.
mean, you
Yeah.
could do
Your
so much
thoughts.
damage to people's reputations, to to the sacred timeline, to all that.
Right. Yeah. You know, at this point it's 2012, so maybe you abduct Obama and then you become him.
Yeah,
And all of a sudden it's like
yeah,
executive orders of all these things.
exactly. Step into, any room, anywhere with a camera and say some, insane stuff, and you've shattered the reputation of the president.
But if that's not going backward or forward in time, would that make it a variant? I thought to me a variant is it's actually messing with the flow of time. So is that something
So
that happened?
I don't know. I don't know because when you say that, it makes me picture the cartoon, which is kind of, the point where we're at in the episode with Miss Minutes. And
Yeah.
she's explaining that, oh, every now and then someone steps off their set course of time, and we have to correct the sacred timeline. And it looks like they just kind of pluck him up and then place him right back to where he was.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, but I don't know if that necessarily means that it has to do with time. I mean, it could, but I didn't get that vibe from watching the cartoon. But also, I don't know. Both times I watched the episode, I was watching the cartoon with the eye of should I should I be believing everything she's saying in this cartoon?
Right. Is that, and I'm with you on that. Is that like hardcore MCU canon, or is this the narrative that the TVA is trying to pitch? It's sort of like a
Right,
propaganda type thing.
right.
That's a good point. Yeah. I mean, I liked the cartoon sequence itself.
Oh, me too.
We both mentioned it, 60s vibes. When I was a
Hmm.
kid, I watched a lot of Cartoon Network, even like before their original shows like Johnny Bravo and all that. So when it was
Oh
basically
yeah,
all Hanna-Barbera. So it gave me like Rocky and Bullwinkle vibes or yeah,
I
Hong Kong
watched a
Phillies.
lot of Flintstones. I watched a lot
Yeah.
of Scooby Doo. Yeah, I love those cartoons.
Yeah. And so it gave me that kind of vibe. And so I really enjoyed that part. But um, after that, he goes to stand on trial. And this is my
Let me
one.
interrupt you. I'm sorry. I've got one more
No,
note I want to talk about the cartoon. Okay,
go
so
ahead.
there's a line, and I don't really have much. I just want to talk to you about it
No,
specifically.
yeah.
But the line is, and it's a Miss Minutes line. Whatever it was, stepping off your path created a nexus event which, left unchecked, could branch off into madness, leading to another multiversal war. So they're basically spoon feeding us the phrase multiverse of madness,
Yeah.
both madness and multiverse in the
Caught
same
that.
sentence. Did you catch that? Okay, good.
Yeah. Well, and Kevin Feige, before this came out, I think the day before, he said that this show is going to have more of an impact on the MCU than the other ones we've seen so far.
Yeah,
And it's also, there's been a lot of, I think, hints or at least speculation that this was also going to play a bit into the Doctor Strange movie coming out next year.
cool.
Since this, we're talking about multiverses here, and that one obviously is named Multiverse, so the assumption is there's going to be a lot of that in it.
And this has to do with time, and Doctor Strange is the keeper of the time stone. So
Right, right. It's
yeah.
I was already super excited for Multiverse of Madness even before all the shows we've had. I think
Mhm.
that by the time this is over, I am going to be I will not be able to. It'll be like endgame levels of anticipation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's nice that Marvel can still do that even after, even
Oh,
after the peak of Endgame.
I agree. I agree. It's what I love so much about that franchise. Not to get too far off the rails, but I see a lot of people talking down about Marvel and like what they've done to movies, and I can see the argument because now all these movie studios want to do superhero stuff or universes. Now there's all these spin-offs for other things, and like Fast and Furious had the Hobbs and Shaw, and you're seeing
Yeah.
more of that where studios want to do universes and spin-offs and for sequels and all that. So I do get that, but man, Marvel does it so well, and it's so good, and it's so
Hmm.
entertaining. I don't
It's
understand why
it's
people.
it's too good for other companies, other filmmakers to not want to try to make something on that level.
Well, and you see, I think 5 out of the last 6 Marvel movies made well over $1 billion, and the sixth would be Ant-Man and the Wasp. I think that was in the range of 750 million. So it's like they're very profitable, and then it's
Yeah.
spawned off all these side shows that you can do on the streaming service. That I mean, I have Disney Plus because of the Marvel and Star Wars shows,
Same.
and so I understand why, but Marvel does it so well, and I love it. So.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
okay. This is my gripe.
Okay. What do
This
you got?
So Loki stands trial, and they say, "Are you guilty?" And he does his little thing, and then he says, "No, I'm not guilty. I didn't mess with time. The Avengers did." And then
Mm-hmm.
she says, "No, that was supposed to happen,
Mm-hmm.
and you were the one that messed up time," which is fair because we know that he's supposed to go to Asgard, stand trial, and then do a bunch of other things. And so this messes that up.
Mm-hmm.
But if the Avengers were supposed to happen, that means they were supposed to go to New York, try to get the Tesseract, lose it, and then Tony and Cap have to go back even further to get the Tesseract from a different time. Now, the only reason they had to do that was because Loki took off with the Tesseract. So, was that not actually supposed to happen?
Okay, so here's what I've got for you, because I see that point, and I do agree with you, and that's part of my gripe, is because those two things, the Avengers were supposed to happen, but also Loki wasn't supposed to make off with the Tesseract. Those seem like conflicting ideas. But what if the Avengers going back in time and collecting the stones was what was supposed to happen? And that is what happened, but they were supposed to, or they weren't supposed to get the Tesseract to Loki. They were supposed to get the Tesseract, and then them altering their mission, going back to 1970, Tony meeting his dad, all that stuff was just extra, and also them operating within the sacred timeline. Because I think it was Mobius, Owen Wilson, who said something along the lines of what's the line? Because there's he talks a little bit about free will being, still being a thing within the sacred timeline.
Right. Okay.
So I don't know if, I mean, I feel like we're splitting hairs, but maybe Loki was the only part of that wasn't supposed to happen. I don't know.
Sure. But I mean, I feel like Cap and Tony, man, it's not like it was a grab and go. They ran into trouble. They kind of alerted people that there was something going on. Tony talked to his dad. Who knows how much he delayed doing that? So it's like, are they also variants that just didn't get caught?
I mean, okay, so what we have seen is the TVA being basically the greatest power in the universe and being unstoppable and catching every variant, all this. I don't think that that's the case. I think that they're just as human as anyone else in the universe.
Okay.
I think that is part of the lie that we're being fed, and hope, they hope that we believe, so that there's a twist later.
Okay. I hadn't thought of that because we just had talked about how we didn't know if that cartoon was canon or a narrative being perpetuated.
I think it's a narrative.
And I kind of do too, but I hadn't really put two and two together. So I was hoping that you would at least help me get there. So I'm glad that we at least got to touch on that, because it was like, I was like, that doesn't make sense. Like, if that was supposed to happen, then that also is also. But yeah.
No, that was in my notes too, because it would make more sense that the Avengers would be the variants, because they went back in time with these huge, missions to recover the stones and undo everything from Infinity War.
But then also think about this, right? Like Nebula and Rhodey go to not Vormir. What's the planet they go to?
Is it Nidavellir?
No, that's where Thor and Rocket go. The planet.
Isn't it Vormir then?
No.
Nebula, the one with the Power Stone.
They go to the place with the Power Stone, and so like in real time, Quill goes. He dances around with a little lizard. He grabs the stone. He runs into the dude, and then he escapes. But they knock him out. So even if you put the Power Stone back, that exact flow of sequence doesn't actually happen. What if the dude gets there before him? And that completely messes up everything that happened.
I don't know. The dude you're talking about is the dude who catches Quill stealing the Power Stone?
Right. So Quill in Guardians, Quill gets the Power Stone. He's got it. He's trying to leave, and then he gets stopped by the guys.
Yep.
And then he escapes. He flies away. But when Nebula and Rhodey get to that planet, they knock him out. He's subdued for who knows how long, right?
Yeah. They've already altered the timeline then.
They've altered the timeline because unless the only, I guess, loophole there would be if I wish I remember that guy's name. I should have looked it up beforehand. But let's the
Oh, I know.
guys that
I know who you're talking about, but
yeah, the
yeah,
guys that confront Quill, maybe they just are gonna wait for him anyway. Maybe Quill comes to, he's like, "What the hell happened? Screw it." Goes and grabs the Power Stone, and then maybe they're just waiting to ambush him. I guess could be the only
yeah,
thing. But otherwise, what if they just went there to grab it themselves?
yeah. Why were they not waiting to ambush anyone who took the Power Stone? Why were they not there? Okay, I see what you're saying now.
Exactly, because they just
I
made
don't
off.
know. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that.
So
That'd be a good
that's
Google.
that Nebula and Rhodey are variants. That's
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, actually, I wasn't going to bring this up until later, but if we're going to talk about should be variants, wouldn't Gamora from the 2014 timeline that time traveled to the future with Thanos, wouldn't she be a variant too then?
100%, right? Because she's supposed to go on and meet Quill and
Hmm.
die. But this one doesn't.
Yeah. So I don't know.
But,
I just hope that
but
I hope we get answers.
but there's still time for that to backfire on her, right?
Hmm.
Because we're gonna have Guardians 3. I would assume she's gonna be in it.
Yeah,
There's always a point where the TVA could grab her in that.
I guess. Yeah, that seems like it would be too much of a plot thread for it to not be the entire movie, but maybe.
Yeah, I know. There's another thing, but we'll get to that later. I do kind of want to. I think I've exhausted that
Okay.
that
Okay.
part. We
Yeah.
should also rewind about 5 minutes because we are introduced to Mobius in France in what is it 1549,
Hmm.
and there's a scene where there's a fugitive variant that they have been
Hmm.
on the chase trying to catch, and this person has killed guards, or maybe they were actually TVA security people.
Minutemen.
Yeah. That's a good name. And
Mhm.
so they're doing the investigation, and then a kid walks by, and then he sees that the kid has a piece of bubble gum, or not a piece, like a
Hmm.
whole bubble gum. And then
Kablooey bubblegum.
there's a moment where we get a wide shot, beautiful shot, cinematography in this episode. They picked up right where they left off in Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Cinematography, the shots were really, especially the Gobi Desert, phenomenal.
Hmm.
There's a shot where he's talking to this little kid, and he says, "Who do you know who did this?" in French, and the kid points to the stained glass, and it's a devil. And
Hmm.
my first thought was, they better address who that is this episode, or we're gonna have a lot of people online thinking this is Mephisto.
Well, that would be such a funny stunt by Marvel to just tease Mephisto in every single way possible and then never bring him into to anything.
Like if that's just like a running gag, like, oh, you thought Mephisto was gonna pop up in WandaVision? Well, guess what? We're gonna
Yeah.
tease him in everything. He's gonna be in
So
Hawkeye.
yeah. So I guess it kind of. I mean, we're not doing spoilers. So everyone that's listening has seen this episode. They talk about later about who the variant is that Mobius is chasing, and it's Loki
Right.
from either a different timeline or a different universe or something. And I guess it would make sense that this little girl would see the devil as Loki if Loki just came in, killed everybody. He probably had his giant horns up.
Right.
Easy mistake to make.
When I watched it the second time, and I looked at the image of the devil, it
Uh-huh.
looked exactly like. I mean, it had long hair. It had the
Hmm.
horns almost in the same shape as his helmet thing or whatever it is he wears. I mean,
Right.
I wasn't like disappointed or anything, like, when they said it was Loki, it was a bit of a jaw dropping, like, oh wow. And I mean, we can get into it now, because that was another one of my things was, why was that Loki able to get away from the TVA, but this Loki wasn't?
So yeah, I have it in my notes. I was going to talk about it later, but I think it's for a Loki from a different universe.
I agree, and there's a lot of people speculating it's actually Lady Loki.
Okay, that's not something I know a whole lot about.
I don't know a ton about her either, but there was rumors that she was going to be in the show, and I think it would make sense, because we are jumping way ahead here, but the last shot we really see in this episode is a hooded figure. We don't see their face, but this is
Yeah.
this is after we find out that Loki is the fugitive that's on the run. So if it was just Tom Hiddleston, I feel like they would show him.
I guess that's a good point, and I that is something that I thought of watching it the second time is why not just show his face, because they've already said it's Loki. We already know it's Loki. Yeah, I guess that I didn't. Yeah, they're probably setting up for a reveal later,
Sort of feels
or
like,
maybe,
yeah.
it is Tom Hiddleston, but he has some different facial markings. Maybe he's got scars, or I don't know. Maybe he has something to differentiate him from our universe's Loki.
Maybe he's red. That's
Yeah, maybe his skin's red for some reason. He comes from a universe of everybody has red skin.
looks like Ronald McDonald. It's like, all right,
Hey,
exactly.
multiverse. There's a universe for everything, right?
If Marvel was like, you know what would really trip these people out is if this multiverse that this Loki's from, everyone looks like Ronald McDonald. I don't know why that would be the case. But so that was I thought that was a pretty cool scene, especially with that wide shot, and it sets up our events that we would see later on in the episode.
Mm-hmm.
But we finally get Loki and Mobius together. Loki's on trial. Mobius keeps him from getting reset and takes him into a room. There's a projector, and he's going through all the things that Loki's done, from Germany, New York, all these things.
All of this Loki's past events from Thor 1 to Avengers, kind of catching him up on all the evil stuff that he's been up to.
And he poses the question. I can't remember if it's exactly, do you like hurting people, or why do you like hurting people, but something in that realm. And Loki's just like, I'm a mischievous scam. This is what I do. This is this is who I am. It's all in the name of mischief. But Mobius isn't buying it.
Yeah, well, this whole interrogation conversation, whatever you want to call it, Mobius is doing a really good job of taking advantage of Loki already being angry,
Yes.
and riding the line between asking him legit questions and mocking him at the same time. He's doing a great job. He's really poking him because he wants honest answers.
Right. And that's the whole thing. Answer honestly, and you can get what you want. We can let you go. If not, then tough luck. So we get a really fun scene. We talked about this before. You did a little bit of research, but he's showing him all these things that he's done, and then he's like, and then you did this thing, and it takes us back to, what is it, 1970, 69?
Yeah, I think it was like 1971, maybe.
1971.
I could have the year wrong. I'm not sure.
And it's Loki with a bomb on a plane, and we find out that he was DB Cooper. Talk to me about DB Cooper.
Okay, so I didn't know anything about DB Cooper. I was watching the show with my girlfriend. She's super into true crime stuff. She said DB Cooper's a big deal, so I had to do a little research. I did a pretty shallow dive, not a deep dive, but I found out basically everything that the show did in this, 60 seconds, 2 minutes, however long this was. They did a really good job. It was basically just a nonchalant, short-haired, business attire guy with dark glasses on a plane with a briefcase, and he writes on a cocktail napkin, I've got a bomb or whatever, gives it to the flight attendant. The flight attendant thinks, oh, this guy's just given me his number, whatever, gross. She throws it in her purse. DB Cooper says, no, you're going to want to read that. I have a bomb. And so, it was a very short flight. It's like a 30-minute flight from Portland to Seattle, or vice versa. I can't remember. But they circle. So he makes his demands. He wants $200,000 in $20 bills and 4 parachutes for some reason. I don't know why 4, but they circle the airport for a long time until they can come up with the money and the parachutes. They land the plane. Passengers get off. Flight crew, or one flight attendant, one pilot, and maybe a co-pilot stay on the plane. They give them the money. They give them the parachutes. He wants them to take the plane to a safe, height to jump out of, basically, because he straps on a parachute, and he tells everybody to get in the cockpit of the plane, and sometime in this 2-hour gap window, he jumps out of the plane. And they never found him. They never caught him. They have no idea who he was, where he went. It's just an unsolved case that was It was just closed by the FBI in 2016. It
I
was
think
an
all they
ongoing
found,
investigation forever.
I think all they found was some of the money that had flown out of the briefcase.
Yeah, which for this episode, for our sake, it was the Bifrost just kind
Yes.
of coming in and blowing these bills everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. So two things for me here. I mean, three, I guess. If you, I really enjoyed the scene. I thought there was a really funny moment to just kind of include. One, we did see this in, a part of it, at least in the trailer, where we see him walking away, and he says, "Brother, Heimdall, you better help me." So when you're watching the trailer, you think this is part of the whole thing that they're gonna do, and like somehow Heimdall is alive, and
Yeah.
somehow Thor is helping him out too. So I'm like, we're gonna see Thor? Like, but obviously that wasn't the case. Um, and then two, I would be really interested to see if there are other things that he did in
That would be
history.
really cool.
Did he steal Amelia Earhart or like?
Oh, that's a good example right off the top of your head. I like that.
Yeah, I don't
Had a
know.
romantic fling with Amelia Earhart, and he kind of whisked her away to Asgard, and they lived out the rest of her years or something like that.
You know, like what else has Loki done? What other weird things did he do? What other unsolved mysteries have not solved? Because it was Loki all along.
Yeah. So I guess its functionality within the episode is just Loki understanding what is and isn't a variant, because everything that Mobius is showing him is Loki believing that he's living out his life according to his plan, his free will, whatever he wants to do. And Mobius is telling him, no, this is all of this is you operating within your set path, and he doesn't like it. And Loki hates this idea.
Well, he brings up a good point too. Loki does when he's like, "What? Oh, what is that okay to do? Is that like okay within your rules? What is that? Is that not a bad thing?" And yeah, Mobius is kind of just like, "Yeah, you know, it is what it is." So
Yeah,
we're kind of just seeing him wrestle with these moments throughout this whole episode, really, and he's trying to come to terms with, does he have free will? Because his whole thing at this point is, I am supposed to be the ruler of Midgard, Earth, and then eventually of the Nine Realms, and I do it because I choose to do it. This is my, I will this into existence. He manifests it. If you're one of those people, I guess.
yeah,
And Mobius is like, no, this is all part of the plan, brother. Like, so it's,
yeah.
I enjoyed that part of the episode where they're adding some depth to Loki, and obviously this is a few hours before this, in real time, Loki was trying to take over New York and kill the Avengers.
Right.
And so this isn't the
It's a
Loki.
big day for him.
It's been a long. He's like, this has been a long day. You know, he had just taken the business from the Hulk, just whacking him all over the place. So they're trying to get this Loki where Loki ends up 5 years after the fact, after the whole Thor Ragnarok, and right up to the point where he kills Thanos, or tries to kill Thanos rather. And so that's kind of the bulk of the episode. I thought that it added a lot of heart.
Yeah, and the up until even when he's watching his past events on the screening device, whatever you want to call that, the jumbotron, the whatever you want to call it, he doesn't. He's still being argumentative. He still doesn't believe Mobius. He doesn't believe, he thinks all of this is a charade, and he's the god of mischief, so he's able to know when he's being tricked. And it wasn't until after Mobius gets called away to talk about another group of Minutemen that have been killed, and Loki's left on his own. He gets his own, he kind of takes his own little personal tour through the TVA. He has a little more agency. He's able to find stuff out. He wants to get the Tesseract back. He wants to get out of there. And it's not until, he gets the Tesseract and, he can't use it, obviously. And he sees the little junk drawer full of Infinity Stones. And that's what really gets him. That's when he starts to believe that they are who they say they are.
Yeah, let's not gloss over that, because I think that was probably the most important part of the episode. And I think that, so yeah, you said he and Mobius get into a bit of a thing. Mobius knocks him down, helps him up. Loki, like a true pickpocket, snags the device that helps him rewind and go wherever. So that's how he
Yeah.
escapes the room. So now they're on the hunt for Loki. He's trying to get around. He winds up in a sort of, I think, the same area where they brought him in, because he runs into the
Right.
guy. Right.
Casey.
Yeah, Casey. They at the beginning of the episode, they grab him. He's got the Tesseract. They take it. They hand it off to this guy. We later find out this guy's name is Casey. So he runs back into Casey, and he's like, "I want the Tesseract." And there's like a funny little interaction where he's like, "I will gut you like a fish," and Casey doesn't know what a fish is.
Yeah.
It's just like, what is this? But it's in this junk drawer, and Loki opens it up, and there's just like 30 Infinity Stones. There's, I don't know, 7 or 8 Reality Stones. There's a big chunk of the
Yeah.
Soul Stone, a few Time Stones, and Loki. I mean, I was not expecting that. He's like, "How do you have all these Infinity Stones?" He's like, "Well, we use them as paperweights." It's just like, and
Yeah. So I guess a lot of the variants come in with Infinity Stones, and this is actually going to be one of my gripes, is this
okay.
junk drawer full of Infinity Stones.
Okay, but before we jump into that, it's like that
Uh-huh.
is the moment where he's like, "Oh, this is the greatest power," because none of these stones work here, and it's
Yeah.
Infinity Stone is useless in this area.
That's kind of the tonal shift of the episode.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
really it changes everything. And I mean, we get to the point where he winds back up into the room where he was talking to Mobius, and he has a moment where he sees his future as we know it, where his mom dies. Well, he saw that Mobius showed him his mom dying.
Yeah.
And so he rewatches that, and then he watches Odin die, and then he
Hmm.
sees how he and Thor sort of re-come together, and then he sees his death. And it
Yeah.
really is a come to Jesus moment for him, where he's like, "Wow, I don't wind up ruling the universe or the multiverse, whatever it is." It's a
Yeah.
very sobering moment for Loki.
Well, this is a Loki that hasn't gone through any of those tragedies. His in his mind, he still has a mom and a dad, and everything's, hunky dory. He's on his way to rule Midgard and all this, and it was it was seeing the Infinity Stones that kind of made him start to believe that what these people are showing him is real. And then once he showed him all the tragic events of his future unwind, he got it, and he was, he started to get real with Mobius, talking about, it's all an illusion. I don't enjoy hurting people. It's always been what I thought that I had to do.
Yeah, yeah, very touching moment. We in a way we do get Loki back to where we would eventually see him be 5 years sooner,
Yeah.
and it's kind of the point where he's like, "I'm in. I'll help you out. What do you need? And who are we getting?" And that's when Mobius says, "The fugitive variant is you." And
Yeah.
what year was it? Was it in the 1800s, or I don't remember exactly.
It was like 1859 or something like that.
Yep, 1859, where we see the Minutemen are they're at a scene where a variant was just at,
Mm-hmm.
and they look down or they look in the distance rather, and there's this hooded cloaked figure. It's not Mace Windu, and we'll get
You
to
had to do it. You had to do it.
and this hooded figure drops a lantern, sets them all on fire, and that's kind of the episode. So
Yeah.
um,
And he makes off with the time resetter device that they had.
yes.
So that's why I had that note about the time resetter from the first, kind of one of the first scenes, is because we don't really know what that does. So we don't
Right.
really know what he can use it for.
Right. So the episode accomplishes a lot.
Yep.
It introduces us to the TVA and somewhat the multiverse, whether it be the real thing or their narrative. We catch Loki up to sort of where we left him off in Infinity War. He's not a good guy, but he's not really a bad guy anymore either, at least seemingly. I'm sure he'll still wrestle with that a bit over the next few episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Mobius is introduced, and we have a quote unquote villain and a thing to do, so to speak. So I enjoyed the episode, but you have some gripes, and you mentioned some
Okay. Yeah.
deserts,
Yeah.
so.
I want to talk a little bit about the junk drawer full of Infinity Stones. Within the context of this episode, it works. I get it. I understand it. It makes sense that a lot of the variants would be thieves of Infinity Stones that need caught. The reason why I don't like it is because we have seen all of these Infinity Stones in super, super impactful ways throughout the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Mhm.
And never has any of the carriers of the Infinity Stones been variants. And I don't know why. I guess context would help, because we don't know who wound up with those Infinity Stones. We also don't know, and this is kind of the argument that I had with myself, is that, you know, maybe one of the variants was Thanos. Maybe he collected Infinity Stones too early or used them too radically or something, and the TVA did step in and then reset his timeline and then plucked him right back, like the Miss Minutes movie or animated short showed, and he has no memory of it.
So, I think the only issue I have with them being in there is that they're in there. I think that if plucking an Infinity Stone messes up the flow of time, keeping it doesn't reset the flow of time unless you're able to generate another one.
Right.
So for example, the Power Stone. Whenever that
Good
was
example. Yeah.
whenever that was plucked out, and because there was at least one in the drawer.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever that one was plucked out, how does that one, if we only have one timeline as told by this cartoon, does that one get put back so that Quill can take it and the Guardians come together and then they put it on Novcore? Or
I don't know. I don't get the concept of having two of the same Infinity Stone in the same place at the same time, because even with the time travel that the Avengers did in Endgame, I don't think there's ever two of any one stone in the same place at the same time, which they could have done and they chose not to.
right, well, and that was the thing too, was once they went and got one version of the stone, and then Cap put them all back precisely when they were taken.
Exactly.
So that they would not become variants, even though they didn't know that was what was going to happen. But yeah. I see, for me, you're bringing up that, like, oh, Thanos might have, as an example, might have picked one too early or used it too early. The way I interpreted it, and I might need to just rewatch this cartoon that they did, I thought for sure it was that you're just messing with time, and that anything else that happens that isn't going forward, or I guess isn't going backward, is, or I guess forward, because who's to say you don't go into the future and grab one in the future?
Yeah.
Anything that's going forward or backward, that's what a variant is. Because I don't think that, like, whoever the elf is getting the reality stone and having it, like, what if, so it ends up in Natalie Portman's character, but, like, what if that wasn't supposed to happen? But like, maybe he gets it some other way, or I don't know.
It's one of the fate is a tough plot device, right? Because they can say that, if it was supposed to happen, if all these terrible things are supposed to happen, great example, the snap was supposed to happen so that the Avengers could get together, steal the Infinity Stones, do their time heist, and take it back. Like, I don't know. I love Infinity War. I love Endgame. I just feel like this junk drawer full of Infinity Stones kind of diminishes the impact of those movies.
I think that we are going to see repercussions from the time heist in future movies, specifically Ant-Man and the Wasp, because Kang is supposed to pop up in there. There's even some theories that we might see a brief hint of him in this show, since we're dealing with time and the multiverse. And his whole thing is he's the master of time. And so the thought would be the Avengers go back in time, they get these stones. As we've discussed, it wasn't a simple grab and go. Things got messed up. The Power Stone specifically, going back and getting the Tesseract, obviously the Loki situation, even something as small as Banner getting the Time Stone from the Ancient One, because it's like they had to have a conversation. She missed out on doing certain things. When he goes up to her, she's in secret fighting the Chitauri and staving them off from certain things. So even her not doing that for a few of them and killing someone could have drastically messed up the timeline. So even if Cap goes back and gives the Time Stone precisely when Banner gets it, there's that chunk of time where things didn't get done normally got
Yeah.
done. So I think that we are going to see repercussions from that pop up down the road, and maybe that's just maybe the explanation is the TVA isn't as this big of a thing as they're saying they are.
So I guess my argument for that would be kind of the same as the free will and also sacred timeline existing on the same plane, because maybe for your example, maybe the Sorcerer Supreme not fighting Chitauri for that period of time doesn't alter the timeline, doesn't alter the sacred timeline enough to warrant the TVA coming into play.
Sure.
I guess.
Fair. That's fair.
Yeah, it's just it just seems like the TVA should have been involved in an event as big as Infinity War Endgame.
I agree. I still think that this junk drawer of, I think the biggest problem is that they're even in there. I think that not having it, because the idea is, if by their logic you have one timeline, meaning there's only one of each Infinity Stone. So even having how do you have 7 reality stones if there's only one timeline?
Right.
So it feels like that part is not true.
That part's a little clunky. Yeah.
So I don't know.
Maybe they were planted. Maybe they were there in hopes that Loki would do everything that he did and find them and break him.
That could be the case too. Maybe the reason the Tesseract didn't work is because it's not real.
Maybe they took the real Tesseract and they gave him a phony one. Because I didn't think about that.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was.
Okay, so here I wrote down 2 things while you were talking, because I really wanted to get to both these points. So, okay, we were talking earlier about the fact that the Avengers time traveling were supposed to happen, but Loki getting the Tesseract and teleporting out of there was not supposed to happen. What if they're lying to Loki about that part of it? What if he is supposed to happen? He is supposed to go to the TVA and he is supposed to help them catch this other Loki. And they're just feeding him the lie that he isn't supposed to happen so that they can break him and get to where Loki needs to be mentally and emotionally.
See, I agree with that. I think that's probably likely, because that goes back to my whole thing of the Avengers were supposed to go back in time, and then Cap and Tony were then supposed to go back to get even further back in time. So Loki was supposed to be captured. So I'm sure that maybe at some point at the end of this show, they're going to say, okay, we're going to put you back exactly where you were. And,
right.
And then you go on and whatever happens.
I think that's what's going to happen.
Which was kind of why I'm a little bit more lenient on it, because it's the first episode. We don't know everything yet. It's just kind of a fun thing to speculate on. But it is like a head scratcher where it's like, okay, if that was supposed to happen, why was this not supposed to happen? So
yeah.
Maybe you're right.
It's a pretty glaring plot hole.
Kind of, right? Like, yeah, I don't know, but it is what it is. I hope we get some answers on it. Even if we don't, I don't think that it would really diminish this show and the remainder of it, or really the MCU for that matter. It's not like there aren't plot holes in any other thing that we enjoy.
I know.
It's really hard to do anything with time and not have some sort of a mess up. So if they get it, great. If not, I'm sure the rest of the show is gonna be really good.
Yeah. The other thing that I scribbled down is, what if Kang is a timekeeper?
Oh, in the TVA?
Yeah, not one of the Minutemen, one of the timekeepers, one of the lizard men, so to speak.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll be really interested to see how they do Kang. I should have brushed up on him before we hopped on here, but from what I know, he is created from, I think, lapses in time, like I guess variance for whatever.
Okay.
For lack of a better word. So again, he's supposed to pop up in Ant-Man and the Wasp. Ant-Man was the one that came up with the time heist and was in the quantum realm, and that's how you figured out that you could travel through time. So this is going to be how he comes in the MCU, but I'll be really curious to see the greater details of that.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sit here and be like, he's going to pop up. because I don't want to do that. I did that with like the last 3 shows we've watched. A lot of them were not what we thought they were going to be. Power broker.
Throwing shade, but no, but seriously, the
Uh,
Power Broker was a little bit of a letdown.
a little bit. A little bit. But if we could get like a thing like Thanos at the end of Avengers, just a real quick shot of him sort of smiling, and then that's all we see. I think that would be a really cool use of him.
Yeah, I think that just to back up my Kang as a timekeeper theory, it would make sense that most, if not all, evil time travelers would be a threat to the TVA. What if Kang is immune because he's a timekeeper? What if he's totally off the TVA's radar because of his status as a timekeeper?
Maybe there is
just a theory. Just a theory I want to play with now.
Maybe there are ties. I mean, I know he is the master of time. That's his whole sort of. He's supposed to. I think he is supposed to be able to go back and forth through time. So there's got to be some ties to the TVA with Kang. I hope that we do get some sort of a cameo at least. By the way, here he is, sort of thing.
Yeah. Speaking of cameos, I know we're kind of done, but Phil Coulson gets a little honorable mention in this episode. They talk about Phil Coulson a little bit.
Oh, I must have missed that. Where was that? Oh, yeah. Where they show him.
Yeah, they showed how the Avengers came to be. You know, they came together to avenge Phil Coulson, and Loki has a line, to the effect of "so much it did for a dead man" or something like that.
Yeah. No, good catch there. Coulson, always happy to see a bit of Phil Coulson.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Well, since his not separation from the MCU, but since his death in Avengers, he's not mentioned a whole lot, just so that they can keep the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. going, and it's definitely kind of split the MCU Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the movies because of that.
Yeah, well, what if that's a multiverse in itself?
That'd be cool. I mean, we already know, without going into too much spoilers, that there's time travel within the confines of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So that would be kind of interesting to see that play out in the multiverse of madness.
Maybe that would be a cool one. Right? A quick shot. Oh, that's where they are. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, I enjoyed this episode. I did. Even with, we had a lot of gripes. It's more just kind of fun to talk and speculate on things. But
yeah, I'm more interested in what they're gonna do with things more than being too nitpicky. I guess I'm just kind of doing that for the sake of the show, just to have some talking points.
Sure. Well, any final thoughts on the episode?
The only other note that I skipped over was Loki Laufeyson. They had his last name of Laufeyson. I think that Laufey would probably be his birth name, his frost giant name.
Well, so it's like Thor Odinson. Laufey
right.
is his father's name. So
Son
is yeah. Which I actually was thinking about that too. It's like, what if he had a daughter? Odin daughter, Laufey daughter, like, is that what it would be?
Odin daughter. Yeah, is it Hela Odin daughter? I don't know.
That's a horrible name.
Yeah, it is.
Hela Odin daughter. Oh God, no wonder she went evil.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey man, I am very excited for the show.
Same.
I think the next 5 weeks are gonna fly by quick. I think it's going to be a really entertaining show. I'm excited to see if that is, in fact, Lady Loki and more time madness.
Yeah.
So, thanks for joining us, guys. I hope you enjoyed the show as much as we did. Let us know what you thought. Give us comments and feedback. Let us know. We have our show notes. We'll have our links to Twitter, Instagram, all that. If you're watching on YouTube, if you can give us a like, leave a comment, whatever you can do, helps us out. I guess we'll catch you guys next week with episode 2.
All righty. Catch you later.
Peace.